You are listening to Chapter 3 Lesson 7 of Form 3 Cameroon History. Cameroon General Education. Narrated by Wacheseh Academy. How the British administered southern Cameroons during the Mandate period. It was administered as one of the provinces of southern Nigeria. Cameroon Province was headed by a resident. The resident of the province was directly under the lieutenant governor of the southern region of Nigeria, who was under the control of the Governor-General resident in Lagos. The Governor-General was directly responsible to the Secretary of States for the colonies in London. Cameroon Province was divided into 4 administrative divisions, namely, Victoria, Kumba, Mamfe, and Bamenda divisions. District officers headed the divisions and were directly responsible to the resident. The policy of indirect rule was adopted in the mandated territory. The police force was set up controlled by a commissioner of police with an assistant to maintain law and order. Why Britain administered her own portion of Cameroon as part of Nigeria? British Cameroon was small and narrow. The relief of the territory did not make the territory homogeneous to be administered easily as a single unit. This was to ease administration because of proximity to the British colony of Nigeria. To reduce the cost of administration because the British lacked enough funds to administer the territory directly. British Cameroon was not economically viable, hence has to be administered as part of Nigeria. The British felt that Nigerians could be used to promote the political, economic, and social advancement of the territory. The British did not regard the territory as her colony, hence was reluctant to administer it separately, which was costly. Inadequate British colonial staffs discouraged them from ruling the territory separately. The fear of the return of the Germans influenced the integration of the territory with Nigeria. The effects of the decision on Cameroonians. Negative effects. It made British Cameroon to be administered under Nigeria. It led to a mass influx of Nigerians, especially the Igbos, to British southern Cameroons as imperialist. It made Nigerians, especially the Igbos, to treat southern Cameroonians as second-class citizens. It made Cameroonians suffer Nigerian discrimination, domination, and tyranny. It made some peasant farmers to be evicted from their farms by the Igbos. It made Nigerians dominate trade, and most Cameroonians were cheated by mischievous Nigerian traders. It led to future boundary problems between Cameroon and Nigeria, because of the integration of Cameroon's territory to Nigeria. Positive effects. Facilitated contacts with the Nigerian anti-colonial pressure groups like the NNDP, NYM, etc., and experienced politicians such as Azakayo, Awolowo, etc. It made southern Cameroonians enjoy sound political education in Nigeria. Nigerians provided accommodations to Cameroonians despite the fact that the British did not consult them. Cameroonians gained jobs in the Nigerian civil service. They gained training and qualified as professionals in Nigerian colleges, such as EML Ndali as medical officer, etc. They benefited from cheap medical facilities. They gained enterprising skills in business from the Igbos. They easily exchanged products with Nigerians. Changes which occurred in British Cameroons. Administrative and political changes. The territory was administered as part of Nigeria. The territory was partitioned into North and South. British administrators replaced German administrators. The British introduced their colonial policy of indirect rule. Native authority was reinforced in the territory. The British colonial forces replaced the German colonial forces. The English legal system was adopted. English courts replaced German courts. Annual reports had to be sent to the League of Nations. Economic changes. The British sterling replaced the German mark. Trade links increased between Nigeria and the British. Forced labor and brutality against the natives reduced. Plantation work slowed down, and the British colonial authorities showed little interest in plantation work. Social changes. German schools replaced with English schools. German teachers replaced with English teachers. The English language replaced the German language as the new official language. Cameroonians went mostly to Nigeria and the British to further their education. The British opened new hospitals, and British medical officers replaced most of the German medical officers. Reasons for the British adoption of indirect rule. This was the British system of governing the Africans through their traditional political structures. The British were impressed with the organization and authority of the traditional leaders, especially Fondams in the grassland. The British wanted to reduce the cost of administration. Lack of enough personnel to rule the people directly. Inadequate knowledge of the environment. They wanted to make colonial rule beneficial to the British and the colonial people by making use of their traditional institutions. The British felt that to prevent native revolts they had to use the authority of the traditional rulers. To prevent direct contact with the natives whom they regarded as wild and primitive. Inadequate transport infrastructure and means of transport made it difficult for the British to reach most parts in the interior. The success story of indirect rule in northern Nigeria influenced the British to use this policy in Cameroon. The British felt it was the best way to prepare people for self-rule and independence. The benefits or merits of the indirect rule to Cameroonians. It helped to preserve native culture and tradition, as well as the native institution. It led to the reinstatement of many traditional rulers, who had been deposed by the Germans, such as Chief Asanganyai of Fontam. Traditional rulers helped the British to define tribal boundaries that had been altered by the Germans, such as the Bali and their neighbors. It made traditional rulers to be trained in the art of modern governance and representation. It facilitated the maintenance of law and order by the chiefs. Natives enjoyed the system of justice based on their traditional laws and custom. It empowered the chiefs to use local police and crime waves were reduced. It made the cost of administration very low, which made people lower taxes. It facilitated the promotion of social development such as schools, training of teachers, scholarships, which reduced illiteracy and ignorance. It also facilitated economic development through the promotion of agriculture, which reduced starvation and provided income. Native treasury kept taxes collected, which was used for socio-economic development. The failure and demerits. Native authority areas were constituted ignoring linguistic, historical traditions, and other considerations. It failed to unite the traditional rulers and the Western educated elites because the elite felt they were better placed to represent the people for development than the chiefs, but they were always excluded. It failed to unite fondams and chiefdoms. It rather promoted tribal sentiments and disunity. It failed to promote rapid socio-economic development because most of the traditional rulers were conservative and backward and did not see the need for modern social amenities such as electricity, pipe-borne water, etc. as priority projects. The money kept in the native treasury collected from the poll tax, jangali tax, trading licenses, etc. was too small to carry out giant projects such as the construction of hospitals, colleges, etc. Economic development. Agricultural. Description. Britain took over supervision of German plantations after the First World War. The Germans returned to manage the plantations after 1924 public auctions in London. The plantations cultivated crops like rubber, banana, oil palm, coffee, etc. Plantations were expanded in places like Boda, Tycho, etc. The plantations had a workforce of above 20,000 natives and many German planters. Methods adopted to promote it. The chief assisted in the recruitment of laborers. Workers were accommodated in camps. Health centers were close to the plantations and medical officers ensured proper sanitation and health. The estate had civil police for the protection of crops and harvest. Roads were constructed and the expansion of the Victoria, Tycho, and Boda ports facilities aided agriculture. Effects. It provided jobs to the natives. It led to the expansion of ports of Victoria, Tycho as well as roads and bridges to handle crops. It led to the establishment of health centers, schools, camps, shops, etc. to cater to the workers. It however deprived the natives of their fertile lands for local crops. It led to the congestion of people along the coast looking for better opportunities. It led to the forceful recruitment of workers especially in the Bamenda grassland who were transported over long distances to work in the coastal plantations causing separation of families. Transport and communication. Description. The British constructed narrow roads and bridges linking Victoria, Tycho, Moyuka, Kumba, and Mamf. Roads were developed linking the territory to French Cameroon, such as the Kumba-Lom and Bamenda-Mbata roads. Expansion of port facilities in Tycho and Victoria. Expansion of postal services and telephone network linking Tycho, Bia, Victoria, etc. Methods adopted to promote it. They collected taxes from the natives and investments to finance the project. Some revenue and experts came from Britain. The natives were recruited as laborers in the construction project. Effects. It promoted agriculture. It promoted international trade because of port expansion. It encouraged the movement to the coast and congestion. Trade. Description. Salt left Mamp for the grassland, French Cameroon and Nigeria. The Nso area supplied cola nuts to French Cameroon and northern Nigeria. The Nap Plain also became a major supplier of farm and hunting equipment. Methods. Farms and market roads were constructed. There was the expansion of ports. Effects. It created jobs for many natives by increasing economic power. It increases the income and living standards of the natives. It united tribes, especially those in the coastal and interior regions. Trade encouraged conflicts between the Europeans and the natives because of cheating. Traders promoted prostitution along the coast. Social development. Education. Efforts were made to turn former German schools into English schools under corresponding religious bodies. Education in British Southern Cameroons was governed by the Education Ordinance of Nigeria. The major problem of education was the shortage of teachers. Mission schools could not operate until 1920 because there were no resident missionaries. This aspect delayed education in British Southern Cameroons. The Catholic created a teachers' training college at Njinikam in 1944. The British, Nigerians, and Cameroonians were actively involved in teaching. Effects. It reduced illiteracy and ignorance. It improved communication between the natives and the British. It promoted skilled manpower, which made the natives find jobs. It promoted British culture at the expense of native culture. It slowed down farm work because most of the children spent their time studying in schools. Medical and health services. Description. Establishment of hospitals in all the 4 regions. British medical staff and drugs were used in hospitals. The missionaries established health centers in places like Bia, Bali, Nyasoso, Bafut, etc. Effects. It reduced infant mortality and death rate. It increased the life expectancy of the natives. It eased the treatment of tropical diseases. It made workers very healthy and productive. It was very costly. Christian missions. The main Christian missions were the Catholic, Baptist, and the Basel mission. The Catholics had more churches. The Mill Hill Fathers replaced the Palatin Fathers during the Mandate period. The Christian churches were piloted by mostly European evangelists, assisted by natives, catechists, and devoted Christians. Missionaries were involved in running schools, health centers, agriculture, trade, etc. Effects. Their activities reduced paganism and many forms of hooliganism. They improved the moral standard of the people. They provided cheap education and health care. They constructed good houses and improved the beauty of towns. Their activities discouraged native culture like polygamy, respect for chiefs, etc. How the British neglected British Southern Cameroons. Political. Refusal to administer the territory separately from Nigeria. Without consulting the people, she administered the territory as an integral part of the southern province of Nigeria. Refusal to establish a separate legislature for the province until 1954. Failure to ensure proper representation of the territory in Nigeria. Failed to provide sufficient protection of southern Cameroonians against Nigerians' discrimination, domination, and tyranny. Social. Failed to establish a single secondary school in the territory. Failed to provide enough scholarships to the Cameroonians for further studies. Trained teachers were not enough in the territory. Failed to make health services very cheap to the peasants. Failed to train enough medical doctors and nurses. By 1943, only Ndali had graduated from Yaba College of Medicine. The British failed to train enough engineers, lawyers, accountants, and other professionals vital for the socio-economic development of the province. Economic. They did very little in the promotion of plantation agriculture. Transport infrastructures were inadequate. They neglected railway development in the territory. They neglected the development of secondary industries. They failed to establish an autonomous budget in the province for development. They relied on the Nigerians to promote development in the territory, which rather provided opportunities for the Nigerians to exploit the territory for the development of Nigeria. Reasons for the neglect. They did not regard the territory as a British colony. They were afraid of the return of the Germans. They thought Nigerians could be used to promote development. They thought the territory was very poor, hence reluctant to pay attention. They were not willing to tax people heavily to support the development of the province. British experts were reluctant to work in the territory because of the harsh tropical. The small size of the territory and its small population discouraged British investors.